Welcome back to the show, everybody, and it's not over by a long shot. SEC versus Ripple. We got new news on that, and plus we're going to talk about this. We got a couple wild cards in the mix now, and is this thing going to settle, or is it going to go the distance? We're going to take a look at some information. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check it out. We got a $966 billion market cap for crypto. Download that Coin Paprika app. Give them a try. Bitcoin right now is 19,100 plus. We see Ethereum at 1,300 plus. XRP's at 35 cents. If you look at the 7-day, Bitcoin's off by more than 13%. Ethereum's off by more than 21% on the 7-day, and XRP's off by more than 10%. And to throw it in there, Charles Hoskinson, is off by 10.67%, and XRP's actually up 1.32%. Forgive me. And we see Solana, off by 14% plus. So that's what the numbers are in the last week in the news here. This is from the SEC versus Ripple. The SEC says it takes no position on the Chamber of Commerce filing amicus brief, but asks to respond and may request more time or pages if additional amicus briefs are allowed. The last line is clearly a threat directed at John Deaton. Take a look here. The SEC respectfully submits this response to the motion by the Chamber of Digital Commerce for leave to file the amicus curiae brief. It says here, the SEC takes no position on the motion, but respectfully requests that in the event the motion is granted, the SEC be able to respond to the motion as part of its brief in opposition to defendant's motion for summary judgment on October 18, 2022. The SEC may seek further relief from the court, including additional time for its response and or additional pages for its October 18th opposition brief in the event additional amicus curiae briefs are allowed. And that's, I believe, is what Jim Filan is referencing right there. No doubt, shout out to Jim for that. Now let's get into this information right here. Here's a clip that I want you to hear about settlement potential from the incredible Twitter space that was hosted by Eleanor Terra at Fox Business News and John Deaton on the show. Take a listen here to this clip here.
Yeah, that's my speculation. I don't talk to Ripple lawyers, and I have no insight. So that's just me speculating.
Yeah, I mean, I asked the question. I said, what are the odds of a settlement at this point? And he said, I'll say what we've said since day one. The only way this case settles.
And she's referencing Stuart Alderati, Ripple's legal team.
Is if the SEC acknowledges that Ripple's distribution of XRP does not constitute an investment contract, and the secondary market trading of XRP is not a security. So to me, it sounds like this is going all the way. And that was one of the questions actually someone posed on Twitter. They said, John, do you think that this case will drag out into 2023? And I'm guessing your answer is yes.
Yes. I mean, here's what I have to tell people. I told them I'd always give my honest opinion, is that I predicted that Gary Gensler is going to sue an exchange or exchanges. He's trying this land grab, right, to get all of crypto. He's now saying that the majority of cryptos are securities. How do you file suit against Ripple, claim XRP is a security, then settle with Ripple, agreeing that XRP is not a security, and then go after everyone else? You know, I mean, it's just a very, it can be done, but I just don't think it's going to happen until the SEC is faced with a situation where the political damage of a loss, right, a guaranteed loss, outweighs, the potential risks of winning at summary judgment. And so if those Hinman emails say stuff like somebody makes a comment, hey, listen, if you give ETH a pass, you got to give XRP. Why not XRP? Or, there was some kind of suggestion about that. That could guarantee, Ripple success, at least on fair notice, if not, on other things as well. And so if the SEC was faced with what they view as a guaranteed loss, then then maybe they're like, hey, let's see if we can settle for, 50, 100 million and call it a day and still go after others and try to, thread the needle on the optics of it all. But, that's where I stand.
And, and what a place to stand, too. And first of all, I want to take a second to just appreciate John Deaton and him sharing his candid position on how he feels about this case currently right now with all the information he's aware of, and everyone else, right? Whether it be DAI or Jungle Inc. We're going to take a look at something from him in a second, too. I just have a great appreciation for people who aren't afraid to share and speculate on where things are, knowing that we all are smart enough to understand that we don't have all of the evidence. We're trying to formulate the best options that are available for the case to move forward and what we think are the strongest at the moment with all the information we have. So a couple things he said there that we need to unpack really quickly. Political damage. If the SEC is facing such political damage from what? From the evidence inside of this Hinman email chain, right? The 68 drafts or however many it is, and that is key. If there are damaging things in there, and it would appear as hard as that the SEC has worked to keep them from coming to light, there must be something unfavorable in there. No question about it. And then there's the fair notice defense that was highlighted by John Deaton as well. I just want to highlight the point again. The fair notice defense protects Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, and Chris Larson as it is intended to, should the judge rule that XRP is, in fact, unregistered securities in that particular instance. That's when the fair notice defense would come in to serve Ripple and Brad and Chris, and not any XRP retail holders. That's why we have John Deaton. So just to keep I understand that much, and I want to make sure we all do, right? Because that is what the job of Ripple is to do, is to protect everyone there. And John Deaton, thank goodness, is taking a job of protecting us. Now, that is going the distance, right? Now, this is the idea that we could see a settlement, and Jungle Inc. also believes we could possibly see it before this month is over. Take a quick listen to what he says here.
I think eventually they will settle this out, and I'm still of the theorem it will happen by the end of this month. Just my opinion. I believe that they are not willing to lose this thing, and that they don't even want to do that. I think they would like to come to some workable agreement, as does Ripple, and they would like to get those resources freed up to go after exchanges and start shaking down other areas of cryptocurrencies. We'll see it play out. You know what I mean? Everyone's got their opinion. That is mine. I think eventually they will. And there you have that.
Let me stop this real quick. So there you have him. He even believes strongly that it could end this month. Now, again, like he said, this is his opinion, right? So don't anybody go beating up Jungle just because he shared it. I love that he's sharing his opinion, just like I love John Deaton sharing his. And I share my speculation, my digital perspectives all the time. And I'm not going to beat somebody else up for doing it when I get beat up for it all the time. But this is a clip here that I want to show you just how frazzled the SEC is, and how what a shambles this case has been, just keeping it all together. And then I want to chime in with some thoughts as well. Only fair, right? So let's take a listen to this clip here.
Remember, there were like 30,000 requests for admissions. And in those requests for admission, they destroyed the SEC because they made the SEC admit that there is no duty by Ripple to an XRP holder. There's no duty. And that an XRP holder, by owning XRP, has no legal interest in Ripple, the company. And so then they shifted gears, and then their expert witnesses started testifying that the common enterprise is the XRP ecosystem. Well, what the hell does the XRP ecosystem means? That means everybody. That means Ripple. That means you as an XRP holder, me as an XRP holder. It means Jay from Spin the Bits as an XRP holder. It means anybody. It means everybody together. But here on page, what I want to tell people is that there's always something that they write that just kills me. And on page 17, they write that the escrow account's purpose was to remind investors of the common enterprise XRP represented. So I guess XRP is the common enterprise now, according to the SEC. or they're saying XRP represents the common enterprise. Just like when I filed that motion to intervene, and on page 24 of their opposition, they say that XRP is a representation of the investment contract. The SEC is making this shit up as they go. And that is a fact. That is not an opinion.
And there you have it. And I mean, obviously, John Deaton has been on this case from day one, following it, representing all the 73 plus thousand XRP holders at this point. He knows where the cracks are in this thing, right? And why would they push so hard knowing that this thing is so flimsy to get this far? It makes me wonder, because I have to wonder, is this thing going the distance or will it settle? I don't know the answer. There's a part of me that says that if the Hinman emails come out, which the Hinman emails and the blue sky laws from Ripple's side of things seem to be their real wild cards that they have in the mix that can absolutely just shut this case down in a moment. Now, outside of that, I have to think to myself too, and obviously I don't know this, and I've reached out on Twitter. I'm trying to find out, do the blue sky laws also really make the Reeves test, which was referenced as case law support of their argument on page 47, does that make, does the blue sky laws really tear down the Reeves test just as much as it does the investment contract through the Howey test? That's the question I'd like to find out from one of these brilliant legal analysts, because then we could either stop worrying about it or pay attention further for anything to come out in these motions to come. So, but with that being said, I want to say this. Let's understand this. We know XRP works. We know XRP and Ripple have relationships with banks and private ledger for central banks and central bank digital currencies around the world. More than a dozen, says James Wallace. Understanding that it actually does what it says it can do. Yes, people speculate on this asset. I use it for use case to move value between exchanges quickly and safely, and exchange into things that I need on other exchanges. I do it all the time. And I also speculate on this asset and what it can do long term. At the end of the day, what I'm getting at is, if this non-state money, which has way more actual, real, applicable use case than a Bitcoin or an Ethereum even at this point, really with a real use case, becomes more practical in solving a problem in the cross-border remittance world, clearing and settlement alike, then this non-state money could go way up in value at some point over time. If we're thinking about that understanding because of the liquidity and utility moving to this new network, pushing a very real value into the token XRP. If that be the case, this would be the first non-state backed money in the world, not backed by a government anywhere on this earth. And then that makes me think of this.
Actually, maybe just to quickly pick up on the national security element, because that's, I've heard like a national imperative. It's important for our own economic standing to remain on the forefront of innovation. But how does that fit into national security for you?
I think when you look at traditional schools of thought around geopolitical power, you have, of course, military power, and you have economic power, and you have the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. So I think people are very concerned that should, because of these innovations in digital assets in particular, if there really is a movement towards certain stable coins, for example, payment stable coins that are not clearly they're not digital fiat, because that would be a CBDC. And they're also not tokenized commercial bank money. And so if there's ambiguity over that regulation and over what those stablecoins might be, people are really worried that that's going to be a movement away from the US dollar as the world's reserve currency.
No, let's just pause right there, because that's a hell of a statement right there, coming from one of the newest members to the Commodities Future Trade Commission about the idea of stable coins and CBDCs. And understand that the World Bank has referred to XRP as stablecoin, XLM as stablecoin for cross-border. A non-state backed money. That's what we're talking about, right? And when I think about the idea of the wild card of, let's say, the Hinman emails and what that could do for the SEC to settle, I think it's all possible. I think it's all on the table. It depends on how fast a judge rules on it or not. When I think about the blue sky laws that have been highlighted by Jeremy Hogan, I think to myself, well, this could be debunk everything, the Howey test, possibly the Reeves test too. And that would be amazing and take us to some sort of fast track to settlement, possibly, right? But then I also think about the idea and understanding that this is a non-state backed money that will really work. And if we understand it the way it was told to us in the early days by Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz and Arthur Brito and everybody else, then we understand it is for the world to use, right? And if the world's going to use it, they have to be concerned, like Caroline Pham is talking about a non-state backed money threatening the other government dollars of the world. And how do we keep a leash on that while we let it have an opportunity to earn a position in the world alongside of those dollars as a potential bridge currency, a complement to the fiat dollars of the world? And maybe, just maybe, it isn't a settlement. Maybe it does go the distance. And maybe they split the baby the way John Deaton has told us. And maybe from that, there's a fine that the SEC gets to receive and claim a win. Maybe there's a designation that allows Ripple to move forward with XRP in the United States, but they have to pay that fine. So maybe early sales are this and later sales are that. And maybe the SEC is in a position from that to appeal that to the Supreme Court ultimately, because if the XRP ledger is all about the money, about all the money, I should say, then wouldn't it be smart of at least the government where the company came from and the people who created the XRP ledger and XRP token came from, to have some sort of legal leash on this new non-state backed money for a few years to make sure if it doesn't go right as they start to let off the gas and the clarity, and by the way, heavily regulate this thing, if it does become a stable coin, then isn't that a way for them to revisit this issue later on down the road in case something doesn't go as planned? I don't know. That's just my digital perspectives, not financial advice.
And that is a national security issue for the United States, as well as a deeply monetary policy issue as well. So that's just one example. But of course, if you have other things, if you have innovation, if you have capital investment, if you have talent, all moving offshore, that people see as a concern as well. And you've seen that with other sectors that have moved offshore that can put the U.S. at a competitive disadvantage. It can be detrimental, to our standing in the world. And I think from COVID, you've seen some issues when you've had, we've got a lack of onshoring facilities. And so this is really, I think, things that people are thinking about, and it's things that people are concerned about. And I think there are also concerns about what does it mean, again, from a geopolitical perspective, if should another currency arise as the world's reserve currency, or if there's a non-state currency, so to speak, that becomes a world's reserve. That's another thing that I think people are very concerned about.
That's another thing that I think people are very concerned about. This is the talk in her circle, right? She's not a YouTuber. This is the talk in her circle. However this goes, be it a settlement or be it going the distance, I feel at the end of the day, when this thing comes out, XRP is going to be highly regulated because it will be highly sought after. Not financial advice from me or anyone else, just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.